This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Chevy could actually benefit from Buick and Cadillac dealers that refuse to go electric. GM is offering buyouts to Buick and Cadillac dealers that don't want to sell EVs, and once a dealer takes the buyout, which about a third of Cadillac dealers did, they're no longer affiliated with that brand and can't sell their vehicles. But they are allowed to sell other vehicles from GM. And Chevy's global VP said, quote, "The minute they pull back and say, you know what, I'm not ready to go all in for those brands, they're now 100% a Chevy dealer. I would argue that the dealer could close or switch to another automaker, but I'm sure some will stick with GM." The VP also revealed that Chevrolet is going the opposite route of its sister brands and will not offer buyouts to dealers that don't want to make the EV switch. But he says the dealers that represent 95% of Chevy sales already sell at least one EV, the Bolt, which shows a commitment to the brand. And speaking of GM, its autonomous unit Cruise is developing its own semiconductor chips for its AVs. It was using chips from NVIDIA, but says they cost too much because it couldn't negotiate lower prices since its volume is so low. So Cruise decided to develop its own chips 2 years ago and has created 4 different ones. One is a computing chip that's the brains of the vehicle. Another processes data from the sensors. The third is a chip for the radar, and Cruise will later reveal what the last one is for. Cruise says they don't use as much power, which will help increase range. The new chips will debut in the Origin shuttle in 2025. It feels a bit odd to say, but Ferrari revealed its first ever 4-door, 4-seater utility vehicle, the Portosangue. Under the hood is a mid-front mounted 6.5-liter V12 engine that makes roughly 720 horsepower. Sending power to all 4 wheels, the vehicle will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.3 seconds. To make sure it wasn't just fast in a straight line and performed more like a Ferrari, the chassis and body were completely designed from scratch with an emphasis on rigidity. Suicide doors lead into the cabin, which features 4 fairly luxurious but highly bolstered seats. And take note of the dash. In front of each occupant is a large bump in the dash with a valley in between them and a display screen in each of those bumps. Really is an interesting look. The Portosangue will cost about $400,000 and deliveries start in the second quarter of next year.
We want to know what drives your testing. OTA, connected car, diagnostics, remote testing. Intrepid Control Systems is here to help you work from anywhere. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Chevy is giving the Tahoe a bit more power. It introduced a performance version called the Tahoe RST Performance Edition. Underneath the hood is a 6.2-liter V8, which cranks out 433 horsepower and 467 pound-feet of torque, which is 13 more horses and 7 more pound-feet of torque than the base RST Tahoe. The new model is able to move from 0 to 60 in 5.78 seconds and has a top speed of 124 miles an hour. The RST Performance Edition also borrows a number of components from the police version of the Tahoe, including police spec springs, retuned dampers, police spec chassis calibrations, Brembo front and rear brakes, and it has a lower ride height. The new model goes into production in the fourth quarter at GM's SUV plant in Arlington, Texas. The package costs $8,525 and is only available on the Tahoe RST with the 6.2-liter engine, so its total price is just over $74,000. And speaking of more power, Toyota revealed pricing for the performance version of the Corolla. Called the GR Corolla, it starts at $35,900 and arrives at U.S. dealers this fall. The model is powered by a 1.6-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine that cranks out 300 horsepower and 273 or 295 pound-feet of torque, depending on the version that you get. The GR Corolla, which is the first Gazoo racing vehicle developed for North America, will be built at Toyota's Motomachi plant in Japan. The Hyundai Group is one of the leaders amongst legacy automakers in the transition to electric vehicles, but the company says it's not giving up on combustion engine cars. Albert Bierman, Hyundai's executive technical advisor and former head of R&D, says the automaker will continue to develop IC engines because not all markets are ready to make the EV transition, since they don't have the charging network needed to make the switch. Bierman says the company needs to continue offering ICE vehicles to remain competitive globally.
There are a few key reasons to start a business in Michigan. First of all, it's the talent. Second, Michigan is wired for winning. Third, the ecosystem here is really focused on supporting businesses in the market.
At Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. Electrifying mobility, manufacturing smarter, reducing CO2 emissions, making energy production clean. Schaeffler pioneers motion to advance how the world moves.
Chrysler is sending off the 300 sedan with a bang, or should we say with the roar of a V8 engine. Production ends following the 2023 model year, and it revealed the limited edition 2023 300C, which will come with a 485 horsepower, 6.4-liter Hemi V8 under the hood. That's enough to carry the heavy sedan from 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. As you can likely guess, it also comes with a host of special options, like Brembo brakes, a limited slip diff, and unique body accents. Only 2,000 will be made for the US and another 200 for Canada, and pricing starts at $55,000. But that's not the only Stellantis vehicle going away for 2023. Early next year, production of the eco-diesel version of the Ram 1500 will end. So it's taking the final orders right now on the truck, which was first offered in 2014. And here's a last bit of Stellantis news that our European viewers are likely to enjoy. Opel is going to revive the GSE brand. Used previously on vehicles like the Commodore and Monza, GSE stood for Grand Sport Injection. The German word for injection starts with an E, and were known as highly equipped and sporty models. The new GSE will also signify dynamic and fun-to-drive cars, but the letters now stand for Grand Sport Electric and will focus exclusively on electrified models. GSE will be its own range-topping sub-brand, kind of like Denali for GMC, that will get its own athletic look and a sporty chassis setup. Opel's CEO says GSE will make its return, quote, in the immediate future. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Experience Dolby Atmos, anywhere, anytime. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering, boost your game. Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. And by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation.